In this video, I want to talk about a project I've recently been working on where a user can upload their resume and the program will extract the text and analyze it using an LLM. For this project, I'm using Next.JS to handle all the front end work, and I'm using Fast API to define the routes in the back end and handle all the logic there. Furthermore, I've also built this website such that the user can choose whether they want to use OpenAI's GPT models or Ollama's models to analyze the resume. Now, the analysis should be relatively similar since the prompt, which I'll be showing you later, is the same. It'll just be which would you prefer? OpenAI costs a little bit more, but is much faster, while Ollama is free, can be run locally, and is dependent on the user's GPU. Now, they handle authentication and storing my users' resumes. I am using MongoDB, which was relatively easy to set up, and I'll show you exactly how I did that as well. That being said, let's hop in and see exactly how this works. So as you can see, I have my main page here where you can drag and drop your resume or select it. So if I go ahead and do that, uh, it will quickly extract the text and give me feedback from the LLM, as you can see here. Now, if you want to store and keep track of the resumes you've already processed, I've also implemented a login feature, which I mentioned earlier, where you just either you can register a quick account and once you do, you can log in and anything you upload, both the PDF and the feedback will be stored in the database so that you can take a look at it later. For this demo, I'm just going to make up a quick account. Just username's demo, email demo@r.com, random password. I hit register. That's done. And then I just have to log in again. Cool. I am logged in. If I go back home, or sorry, I want to go to the upload page. I just go and analyze my resume again. Okay. Now that I have it, I can go back home. I'll go to my resume list. And as you can see, it's right here. The extracted text and feedback from the LLM is accessible at will for my user. All right, now let's take a peek at what's actually going on in the background. To start, let's take a look at main.py. So this is going to be our main routes page. I have a couple routers attached. I have the authentication one, slash auth, and the resumes one, which will handle all the other logic, but this is just how I'm kind of organizing my resume reviewer API. Now, if I go to my resume routes page, I want to first start with the upload route that I've created, since this is the main functionality for this program. And my logic here is pretty intuitive. I'm first going to extract the uploaded file to a temp file and extract the text from there. Um, Now, to do that, I've created a helper class, which allows me to basically go in there. And if I ever want to, I don't know, handle different types of files, I can go here and add just a quick method to do so. So right now I have functionality to extract text from PDF file using PDF miner, and then extract text from like a Word doc uh, with this logic here using the docx API. Okay, now going back to the resume, once I've extracted the text, I'm going to store it in this variable. I'll get rid of the temp file. Uh, I'll handle the errors if this is not a supported file type, and I go into the actual LLM processing and stuff. Now, one pretty cool feature that I've added is that if a user is logged in and already has uploaded that file, it will just effectively pull up the stored information, the stored feedback and text, so that we don't have to send extra unnecessary calls to our LLMs, which can cost a little bit more. So if that is the case, if we are logged in, we're going to get the resume feedback from our database and return it, the extracted text and the resume feedback. If we're not logged in, or even if we are logged in and the file isn't the same, we're going to send the text to our LLM and return the results. Now, again, if we are logged in and the file is new or we haven't seen it before, we are going to save it to our database and then return our extracted text and LLM feedback. Now, taking a look at our process LLM page, kind of seeing what exactly we are going to be extracting. Um, so as I said earlier, we will be using OpenAI and Llama, depending on what the user prefers, what the user has capabilities for. Now, I have defined a general prompt to be used by both Llama and OpenAI, and this is basically telling the LLM what it is, what it should be um, doing when given this resume text. So you are a professional resume reviewer. Analyze the following resume text, provide feedback on the strengths and weaknesses. Now, if I were to go back in here and say, okay, well, because grammar is probably not the most important thing, I can go ahead and get rid of it. Or one thing I should actually add here is because the user's resume's like formatting is not going to be uh, fully translated, I should probably add in an extra line saying uh, ignore formatting issues. Now, to process our extracted text, I have two methods here. The first one will be processing with Olama. So first, I'm going to ping the server. If we can connect, if we have a valid Llama server running, we can then just structure our prompt with, well, our uh, prompt which I defined earlier, as well as the extracted text. And then I'll send a post request to the Llama server with the prompt to kind of generate a response, and then I'll return that extracted response. Now, to process with OpenAI is slightly simpler. OpenAI has a pretty smart and intuitive model. Um, I just define a client, OpenAI, and then I give it my API key. Uh, if we cannot connect, I'll return the error. Otherwise, I will use the GPT 3.5 turbo model uh, and send it a message with the prompt and the extracted text. So very simple. And again, if I want to, like, I don't know, maybe if I want to use Minstrel under Olama, I can just add the option here and it would not require too much extra work. Now that is our main upload function. That's our main upload route, um, which is then going to be accessed by our front end Next.js page. So if I go over to upload.js, um, you can kind of see we're going to have some default options. We're going to, once the dropdown is used, uh, we'll create a form data block, um, get our user ID if we have one. So if we're logged in, this is how we're going to kind of check on it. From there, we just kind of build our form data such that we can send the information to our upload route in our backend. After we receive our response, we're going to update the appropriate fields using the set resume text and set resume feedback methods to display our extracted text and LLM feedback. Now, I'm not going to go through all our CSS stuff down here, but I did want to mention I am using tailwind.css to actually design and make everything look pretty. Also, I am using Markdown to display our responses from our LLM. Okay, cool. Now let's go talk about the authentication stuff. First and foremost, let's take out our Mongo configuration file. This is where I am actually defining the Mongo client and setting up our database connection. Pretty simple. Mongo's UI API is pretty simple to use. Just got to do client.getDatabase, the name of my database, and then I'm using two collections, one for authentication and one for saving and storing my resumes. Next, let's check out our authentication routes. So pretty simple. We have two main routes here. We have the register one if a user doesn't exist, and the login route. The register one creates a new user document with a username, email, and then the hashed password, which is from our util file. I'll cover that in a second. But once I define that, I just insert it into our collection. Pretty simple. Login is also pretty similar. First, I'm going to check if a user email exists, and then I'll check the password that the user inputted with the one stored in our database using the verify password function again in our util file. I'll cover that in a second. I'll create a JWT token to identify that user, um, and I'll return it along with some of the other important user information, such as the username, ID, and email. Now, as I had mentioned in our util file, we have four main methods. We have our hash password, we have our verify password, create JWT token, and verify JWT token. To handle the hashing and verification of our password, I'm using the bcrypt hashing algorithm from the passlib library in Python. Now, when the user is logged in, I'm going to be creating and verifying a JWT token, which effectively tells the computer the appropriate permissions and user details without having to constantly check against a database to see if the user is authenticated or not. So on the front end, we have our util/auth.js file, which is going to be handling all the authentication stuff. And here you will have our register call to the fast API file, our login call, which will then store our token, username, and user ID in local storage, and our logout method, which removes those items as well. To propagate the login and logout changes throughout our front end, I have also defined an authentication context, our auth context file, which will, like, once we log in, it will update the username in our token, and on logout, we'll remove those username and token. So that's how, when you actually go into our page here, it'll say welcome, comma, and then demo. And then when I log out, that's gone. Finally, I'm going to cover the rest of our resume routes. Now, earlier, when I had gone over the demo, I had shown a resume list page, which listed all my users' resumes, and then when you clicked on them, would return the text and feedback for that file. And that is going to be handled by these two routes here. This first one is going to be found at /resumes. We'll return all the metadata for the resumes associated with that user ID. So that includes the file ID, the file name, and the date it was created. The second route will take the file ID from a selected file in our resume list, and it will return the resume's text and feedback. This will all be handled on the front end using the resume list.js file. Um, and this is what is actually going to be setting or getting all the resumes and showing it there. And that is everything. Building this AI-powered resume reviewer has been an incredible learning experience for me. Not just about applying AI to resumes, but about understanding the entire development process. This includes designing APIs, managing databases, and implementing secure authentication. Furthermore, working with Fast API and Next.js has deepened my understanding of backend and front-end integration quite a bit, while also implementing NLP models in more practical scenarios has given me this hands-on experience, which I find very valuable. I also learned a lot about security and data management, particularly through my integrations with JWT and the NoSQL database MongoDB. This was my first time working with Mongo, and it was pretty cool and pretty intuitive as well. These technologies have pushed me to think quite a bit more about scalability, security, and real-world application design. All in all, this project has taught me so much more about full stack development, natural long language processing, authentication, and database management, and I'm very excited to keep improving it. If you found this video interesting, please drop a like, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more projects like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.